What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video for the First Descendant today, we're going to be looking at the patch notes for update 1.3.6, which is the October patch for season 3 or the sword patch, whichever which way you want to look at it. There's quite a bit going on here, including a few surprise updates which are kind of like crazy. I'll let you guys know when we get to it. I'm sure you guys will see by the look on my face once we do. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into this. All right, so first things first, of course, as mentioned, this update is it's on a 10-hour update window, which usually means that they're tweaking and doing a lot of fucking stuff. And currently, as of the recording of this video, the game is unavailable and is being patched. Firstly, the swords have been added, so we have 2 swords that have been added to the game. The first one is the Shadow Sword. The second one is the Deus Ex Manus. Basically, from the looks of it, it kind of like seems like, so they're calling this one a balanced sword. It kind of like seems like the Shadow, the katana, is more for like a sort of like mobbing vibe. And then if you're looking for something that's more about dealing damage to like chunky targets or bosses and stuff like that, you're going to want to go for the power melee weapon, as they say. Now, both of these swords, they use rounds, they use like ammo, so impact rounds on the katana and high power rounds on the big boy. And basically they have combos that when you have ammo, you can do these combos. They also have like power moves that you can charge up, which are special attacks and stuff like that. Most recently, those were shown off during the dev video, and yeah, I mean, it depends on where you fall with this. When I released that video, the comments were kind of like straight down the middle. Some people were excited for the sword, some people were not. I'm unfortunately in the latter camp. I don't really see the point of melee weapons if they're done in this way in a game like this. I don't like the fact that they have ammo. I would like them to rather just, if you have one of these equipped, it changes your actual melee into a sword melee that can combo, and there's a fucking stamina system or something like that, and basically as you use it to do the combos, you build up a power meter that you can deliver a special attack. I don't know, that just seems more like my kind of vibe. But again, you know, different strokes for different oaks, so it's all good. But yes, these are in the game right now, and I know that some people have been asking for these since the fucking game came out in early season, so those people are probably dancing the jig right now as we speak. Then it's also mentioned that there's a sword pass event, which is like a add-on to the battle pass, basically with its own rewards. These rewards are kind of like, I would say, sort of around the idea of the swords. So there's some special transcendent skins in there that you, I guess, can't get anywhere else, at least for now. And basically you have some cosmetics, and you have the usual fucking drip drab, you know, stickers and all of that stuff. We have some research materials and stuff like that, some stuff that you can use to improve your descendants with. And of course you have to purchase this with caliber. It's unclear at the moment right now. In my previous video, I was, I would say, led to believe, whether that is by myself or what I saw in the dev, that it's going to be 1,000 caliber for it. However, if you've already ordered the premium battle pass, then perhaps it's only 500. I don't know. We're gonna have to see once these go in. Personally, for me, I don't think I'm gonna be going for this. Usually I do buy the battle pass because I do like to support the developer in a game like this. I think that this is primarily one of the ways that you can, except for buying cosmetics, of course, one of the ways that you can essentially fund the developer to, you know, improve the game and make it better if they so choose to use the money for that. But I think for me personally, like, the sword pass is maybe like a little bit of a bridge too far. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Then we also have some new content in terms of a extra wing, a new wing of the Void Vessel. So the Void Vessel kind of like hasn't been the focus for a while now. Generally speaking, you kind of like go to the Void Vessel when you want to upgrade your dog. And since most people have farmed the Void Vessel to death and stuff like that, this hasn't really seen a lot of action. This is set to change now because the medium-sized facility zone has now been added to the game. This zone is important for several reasons, but most importantly, this is where you're going to go to farm the items that you need to be able to research the swords. right? So if you have any hope of fielding any of these two swords at any in the future, you're gonna have to probably run this medium-sized facility a whole bunch of times, especially if you want 4 out of 4 versions of those weapons. And so yes, we have this new area here. Basically what they mention is there's of course a normal difficulty as well as a hard difficulty version of this. You need to be mastery rank 13 and have cleared the existing void vessel map to be able to access this. And then once you've completed this and you have a rank 15 of your mastery rank, then you're able to do the hard difficulty of this. Now, generally speaking, it's probably the best to just do the hard difficulty of this. I think there might be some question as to, is it not better just to run the normal difficulty a bunch of times? The point is we'll see just now, but the drop rates for everything is much better in the hard difficulty, and you just have a bigger chance of getting more stuff from the hard difficulty, as it should be. So it's definitely better to have the ability to run the hard difficulty and then obviously run the shit out of that. So there's a bunch of things which basically they mention a new trap and everything like that. Fuck that, who cares about that? There's a bunch of new things which essentially can come from there. Now, first things first, there are 3 new trigger modules which have been added with this patch as well. They are Wave Eruption, Rhythmic Step, and Supply Fortress. These 3 trigger modules also come from a box which drops from this new wing of the Void Vessel. And on normal, you have a 10% chance, and on hard, you have a 20% chance of this trigger module loot box dropping. And then, of course, you open up the box and you pick one of these 3 fucking trigger modules. All right. Then you also have a mutant cell box B, which can also drop inside this facility. This contains one of the new 9 mutant cells, which have also been added. So this detail will be later on in this patch window. I'll explain what these new mutant cells are. But yes, there are 9 new mutant cells alongside the 3 new trigger modules that have been added. And these, of course, will allow you to basically pick from that mutant cell box. So again, if you want these 9 new mutant cells, you're also going to have to farm that from this facility. There's also a Veil Analyzer, which is a melee weapon module, which has an acquisition chance of 5%. So this is a specific module for for the swords. Of course, we know that a whole bunch of new modules for the swords, because the swords work just like the guns, right? Just like the weapons. So the modules that you put in to your weapons to basically develop them, you'll do the same thing for swords. And all of those modules have also been added now. And they are also gonna come from this facility. Luckily, they also come from different areas, which I'll explain just now. Also, there's a new, so if you're familiar with how the Void Vessel works, the OG Void Vessel, you have decryption keys. These decryption keys are used to open up chests during the run on the Void Vessel itself. There's a decryption key type 2 inside this facility. So boo-hoo, those of us that have farmed up hundreds of fucking decryption keys in the hopes that we could use that for this wing of the facility. Oops, oopsie poopsie, sorry, that doesn't work. You need a brand new decryption key, and that is the decryption key 2. So then there's just some additional stuff. You can get support coins, collectible coins. You get some crystallization catalyst materials as well from doing these runs. So yeah, then this part is important. You guys have to bear with me. It's a little bit like a lot, but it's important for you to bear in mind the containers that you open up with your decryption keys inside this new facility, because some of these containers you should skip if, for example, you already have your dogs fully developed, because you'd be wasting a decryption key on not potentially getting something that you need, aka a piece for the swords or materials to be able to upgrade the swords. So first things first, you have basically you have a broker material storage box 2. This does not use a key, so these can just be opened up willy-nilly, and these will have basic materials inside them that are used to craft the swords, as well as a random chance at getting a neuromorphic chip. Okay, in the first box we have, and these boxes are the same naming denomination as what we saw in the previous Void Vessel, so the names are not any different, but you have special, you have genetic, and you have experimental. All right, and mixture. Is this new? Okay, so you have special, genetic, experimental, and mixture. Fuck me. Okay, mixture I think is probably the box set the... Okay, never mind. Let's just go through it. So special materials box, all right. If you open this up, if you spend a key, you have a rare basic material for crafting shadow, which is the mobbing sword, as well as an ultrafine particle alloy, which is also an item that's required for crafting the swords. The genetic information storage box has fallow supplements, a chance at that, and the materials required to build those materials, which is the food that you use to upgrade your fallows, your dogs, all right, as well as rare basic materials used for crafting crystallization catalysts. So the genetic box has nothing in it for the swords. So if your only objective running this facility is to craft the swords, save your decryption keys and don't use them on genetic boxes. Then experimental boxes have different loadouts between normal and, oh, that's what mixture means. Gotcha. Centromere mixture guaranteed is part of this thing here. So it's actually experimental. Sorry, the line cuts off, which was just causing my confusion. So the experimental box has different shit depending on whether you do it on normal or hard. For the sake of this video and just to make it a little bit easier, I'm not gonna fucking, you know, talk about the normal stuff, right? So on the hard difficulty, this has rare basic materials for crafting the heavy sword, so the bossing sword, and then a photon quantum crystal also guaranteed. So the boxes that you want to focus on opening up with your decryption keys, if you're only interested in crafting the swords, is the special materials box for the mobbing sword and the experimental materials storage box for the bossing sword. You want to avoid the genetic information storage box unless, of course, you are still looking to upgrade your dogs in any way. Maybe you're just starting out right now. Then, of course, it's beneficial to open up that box as well because you need the materials to upgrade your dog. So just a quick little explanation there. Then there's also a new external component set, right, which specifically is around swords. So the 2-piece bonus on that, we'll look at it a little bit later. But the point is this set is specifically for the swords. This set, of course, drops from the boss at the end of this wing of the Void Vessel. If you run it on normal, you get one of each of the 4 pieces. So you get 1 auxiliary power, 1 sensor, 1 memory, 1 processor. And if you run it on hard, you get 2 of each. So, of course, more beneficial to run hard. Then we have a new Void Intercept battle, of course. The Stormhanger is out, and in comes a Lava Citadel. So Lava Citadel is a fire-based boss, so that means, of course, weak to chill. You need to be Mastery rank 18, so the usual requirements that you need to be able to fight the Abyss boss. So this is the new one. This is going to mean that Descendants like Haley, hopefully, Jesus, I mean, Haley needs some... just needs to have some value, but Vihesa are going to be really good against this boss because they deal ice damage, of course, or chill damage. And so this will be the new boss for us to be able to, you know, farm and get those consumable materials that we can use in the ETA shop to buy all of the, you know, stuff that we can get from that every weekend when that shop is available. Then there's also mention of this is the quality of life shit. So the fact that you can now open up amorphous materials inside Albion, so you'll go basically there to where you go and research your weapons and everything like that. Right next to there, there'll be a bench, and you can essentially open up your amorphous materials en masse. There does not, from the footage that we saw, there does not seem to be a cost associated with it or anything. So you just burn the fucking amorphous material, and you get whatever's inside there, and you can open up like. Most people have by now hundreds or possibly even thousands of these available, so you can literally just stand there and pop all of these open, and then of course you can take those materials and go ahead and research whatever you're still missing, or trade it in with the weekend fucking shop vendor, you know, the ETA 0 shop. The 3 new trigger modules, as I've mentioned, have also been added. So the first one, Supply Fortress, second one, Wave Eruption, and third one, Rhythmic Step. Supply Fortress is specifically around Descendants that have barrier type skills. At this point in time, I believe that's Ajax and Kyle. And what this does is it essentially means that those barriers will recover rounds for you, ammo for your weapons, as that shield HP is reduced. In other words, as the shields take damage from the enemies, you will actually regenerate ammo. In the footage that we saw on the dev one, they were using it with Ajax, and Ajax had a sword, and Ajax was fighting within his bubble and shields and everything like that. And so he was burning ammo as he was just fucking hitting everything with the swords, and then of course the shields were feeding ammo back into him. So kind of cool little loop there and everything like that. I think it's okay. I mean, it's not the most busted of trigger modules, but definitely probably has some you know, use for it. Wave Eruption is our second trigger module. This is basically when using emission type skills. Emission type skills, they showed it with Blair, with that flamethrower shit that comes out of his hand. And this deals additional damage proportional to amount of stacks. So when you use that flame, it builds up stacks, And essentially what this module does is every stack that builds up, it adds additional damage on top. This looks to be really good, especially on like someone like Blair, specifically for that skill. Pretty much any Descendant that has an emission type skill will benefit from this, and the stacks that you get from this, the additional damage, is pretty substantial. So I think this is going to be a strong fucking module to use in those cases, and definitely something that I'm going to look to farm. The last one is Rhythmic Step, and as you can tell by the name of this, this is to do with rhythm type skills. Now, rhythm type skills, you can imagine that that's Luna, right? But that's also, during this patch, her skills are now being classified as rhythm. So I don't think they had that skill type before, but yes, it's Luna skills. And basically what this does is, it's actually just, the idea of it is just to make Luna a bit more capable of keeping up with faster Descendants as they clear. I don't know if this solves the problem of bunnies, etc., running ahead and killing fucking everything, but it's a step in that direction, because what this does is, as you are doing these rhythm type skills, you basically build up stacks, and you get yourself movement speed as well as a max shield increase, which also gives you a little bit more survivability. So let's basically see how that goes. I mean, especially if you're playing solo, you're still gonna rather just choose fucking raw damage over this. And honestly, I don't know if this is enough to keep us up with those fast Descendants in the first fucking place. So it might be a waste to just take this and rather just, you know, keep on taking raw damage. Then it's mentioned here that the weapons themselves, they have the swords themselves, they have weapon modules, and these have all been added to the game now as well. And how you get these is you get them, of course, from the new wing of the Void Vessel. They can also drop from Axion Plains missions. They can also drop from Axion Plains operational area. They can also drop from the Wall Crasher, and you can also get them from combining. And yes, this fucking the formatting of this table here is cursed, but this shows you if there's a specific module that you're trying to hunt down by combining. You can use this table in the patch notes here to essentially look and make sure that you're combining within the right category, because if when you combine within the right category, you have a higher chance of hitting the module that you're looking for. So if there's one or two of these ones, you farmed everything and you're missing like one or two, and you want to give your fucking you know, try your luck at combining, and hopefully you hit the module that you're missing, then you can use this table to kind of like figure out within which category your module sits that you're trying to hunt down, and then combine within that category, and hopefully you can strike it rich. As I said, super cursed formatting on this table. Yes, just scrolling through that shit. And then we get to the Descendant rebalancing / improvement. So there's been a couple of Descendants that have been targeted in this patch wave. The first one, I would say the biggest one, is Kyle. So Kyle has received I would say a similar-ish rework to what we saw with Lepic. A lot of his skills have been sort of like toned to be a little bit more user-friendly, and also just a little bit, I would say, more fun to use. A good example would be Repulsion Dash, and I'm not going to read through all of this because basically they've changed pretty much everything. What you need to understand about this is wherever there was damage associated with these skills, that damage has been increased. And like I said, the usability of some of these skills have been improved. So like, for example, the Repulsion Dash, which is his shoulder charge, that has this weird thing of like when you dash, whether you hit a target or not, you kind of like stop for a little bit and then you continue on again. So this has now been changed. On collision to a target, stop and damage has now been set target piercing and damage, so you go through shit, which also means that you can potentially use this for a bit of like movement tech, meaning like as you're running and jumping and everything like that, you can dash and basically gain some distance. You'll notice that the dash distance on holding the button has also been increased from 10 meters to 20 meters. So yeah, just a bit of like, you know, like just making him feel a little bit better to play, right? The dash is also faster, and the damage, as I've mentioned, is increased as well. So this is again the case for all of his skills. All of them have been increased. And then just like they did with Lepic, they also did a pass on his Transcendent mods. So his Transcendent mods, in some cases like Collision Instinct, has completely been replaced by something. They've taken that away, and they've changed Superconductivity Thrusters to Superconductive Bombing Mark II. And again here, wherever you can see places where the damage can be increased, it has been increased. And just in general, they've kind of like just made him a little bit more formidable. I would say in some cases the damage increase is quite significant, like you see values of like almost 2,000 going to 5,500 almost. and the explosion damage is almost in a way tripling. So we should see quite a nice big damage bump with Kyle. Whether he, you know, is meta, I don't think that's quite it right just yet, but this certainly brings him up into, like, I would say the middle, slightly higher tier. Again, I'll only know once I actually test this out and everything. So at the moment right now, I'm just sort of like spitballing. Then Ajax is mentioned as well. So Ajax has also been worked on a bit. I wouldn't say to quite, I mean, it's pretty much, I suppose, to a similar extent to what we see with Kyle and what we see with Lepic. However, they've adjusted Event Horizon, which is his passive, so there's some pretty big bumps here in terms of your fire rate and things like that. So all across the board, just big increases here. And then we can also see that essentially his skills themselves have also been modified, and they've added movement speed to them to again make him also feel a little bit better and faster, but they've also increased the damage once again. So I think Ajax, from a perspective of building him, whether you're building jumping jacks or whether you're building fucking explodey jacks, both of those are quite good and are very comparable in terms of damage. When you're mobbing, like in even Axion and stuff like that, he actually fucking destroys shit, and it's actually pretty good. I mean, yes, it's not meta, but it's pretty damn near there. Plus, you know, it's like again a very fun way to play, especially jumping jacks, just jumping all over the place and everything like that is fucking dope. So these skills have also had their damage increased, right? But I want to draw your attention specifically to the two modules, right? So you have Void Charge, right, which is considered to be the jumping jacks mod. And so you'll see here that you have additional damage that is proportional to your defense. So you'll see that this cap has been slightly increased. This was 17.3%, so it's now 20. And you can see that the damage has also been slightly bumped up. And you can also see here that proportional to defense for expulsion has also been increased. Damage also once again is increased, and enhanced damage has increased. So overall, jumping jacks is just going to perform better. So it's going to deal more damage. Then there's also, and I mean, some of the other modules are not as exciting, so I'm not going to hover on them. But again, every single Transcendent module has been touched on. And then Void Expulsion, which is the fucking Explodey Jacks one, right? Here we can see once again, damage has been increased by quite a bump on both the damage and the enhanced damage. So yeah, both of these styles of playing Ajax is going to feel better. If you are playing buff Ajax in terms of like shielding your teammates Ajax, everything like that, that's also going to be better because even those have been improved. The shields, the amount of damage that the shield soaks up has been improved, everything like that. So yeah, you can see even the buffing Ajax, which is body enhancement, which uses hypercube to increase firearm attack and things like that. This has also been buffed, and it even now gives firearm critical hit rate and critical hit damage. So this is really good. It's good. Ajax is one of those like sleeper fucking descendants that, you know, the guys who play Ajax religiously swear by him, and they do it for the right reason, because a good Ajax in the right situation, and let's be honest, okay, this game doesn't necessarily need team play most of the time. It's just better for you to run solo because you can just do things faster, more efficiently, and all of that stuff. But yes, there are some situations, like for example Wall Crasher, or you know, in the past things like Deathstalker and stuff like that, where you are forced to play the game in a group setting, and then having the right descendant in the right place. Like we all know that having a Luna suddenly show up that knows what they're doing is fucking insane. And yes, having an Ajax suddenly show up that knows what they're doing is usually like fucking goated. So this is probably, hopefully, going to promote the playing of Ajax a little bit more. And yeah, hopefully we see more sexy Ajaxes out there in the field. Then we also have Esiemo. Esiemo also sort of like adjusted in the same vein. So there's a pass on his skills, but then also a pass on his Transcendent modules. Again, just here the general rule of thumb is, while they did mess with the max stacks of something, because let me just be clear here, I think Esiemo's power is kind of ridiculous. He plays weird, but he deals a shitload of damage. And so I think they were a little bit threading the needle here, where they didn't want to go too fucking hard in the paint and like just go fucking crazy with his damage. So in some cases you'll see that what they've done is they've increased the damage of things, but then they've reduced the amount of stacks that you can have of a mine or something like that. A good example would be Guided Line and Mine here, where you can see the max stacks now is from 3 goes to 2, but you can see the damage is like you know, skyrocketed. So yeah, just in general, where his damage has been brought up, they've made slight tweaks to like the amount of stacks that you can have and the cooldowns and things like that. So they make less stacks, but they make the cooldown also faster, things like that. So overall, I think he's gonna play better. If it's a massive difference, I don't know yet. We'll have to test that. But what I'm looking at here on the damage values, and as we see these values increasing, anything like that, they seem to be huge. This, again, like I said, Esiemo's never had a problem with dealing damage, especially if you're playing like Creative Explosion or, you know, Cluster Bombs or something like that. And he's just going to be even more powerful now. So yeah. We'll definitely be testing that. Then we get to the holy shit, like, oh my god, I can't believe they did this version of these patch notes. And that's Buddy. Buddy got another pass, and believe it or not, she's gotten more buffs. Buddy's even sicker now. And again, ain't nothing wrong with Buddy as it is, but the biggest difference, guys, there's damage numbers and everything has been increased. This shit right here is insane. Speed of light, which is her fast running ability, right? Adjusted to not collide with enemies while on speed of light. This is huge. Like fucking, like this is something that people have been begging and crying and shitting themselves over for good reason since the beginning of the game, because there's nothing more annoying than being top speed with Bunny and colliding with fucking like enemies that spawn into the field and break your stride. Like, that is annoying on a different level. That's like getting your hair pulled out. And so this is fucking huge. So despite everything else, because yes, her damage has been increased significantly, right? In certain cases, this is the main oh my god moment right here. This changes the game completely, bro. This is fucking lovely. I love this shit. All right. So then Electric Condense, a lot of her skills can now be used while sprinting, which is okay. And then Electric Condense has had a pretty significant damage bump right here. So you can see that Electric Condense module. This is kind of like the, I would say, the meta way of playing Bunny right now. Look, I personally prefer to run, what is it called, fucking Bionic Fuel, but I've not built Electric Condense yet because I just don't like this. But I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to fucking do it now because this is insane. Electric Condense already did decent damage. By decent, I mean decent. Now the damage is pretty much almost doubled up. So that's, you know, great. Okay, then her other modules were also looked at, everything. So she basically got a Lepic pass done on her. And then we can see Bionic Fuel now. Also, once again, they mention this fact that you don't collide with enemies. The electricity obtained is increased. The HP cost is lowered. And they've actually made the C's HP consumption also a little bit higher. So instead of 15%, it's now 35%, which means you're a little bit chunkier. It means it doesn't decrease past 35. The point is that Bionic Fuel, yeah, I mean, it's cheaper to run now, so it's going to be easier to sustain, but it was already easy to sustain with the right module setup. So there's not that much love that was given to this module, but I mean, Electric Condense is is fucked. Okay, cool. Then yeah, the other modules, I did specifically look into high voltage as well, because high voltage is, of course, I guess, the GOAT. You can see here that the cost of the Thrill Bomb has been increased, the skill power, and then the damage has also been increased. Lightning Emission, which is now essentially how high voltage works, is instead of making the AoE around you, it shoots out 3 forks and hits. I believe that was increased to 4 in the patch before this patch, and so now we can see that the damage has also been slightly up. So no, yes, everything else has been tweaked up a little bit, but Electric Condense is the big motherfucker here, and then the fact that you can't collide with stuff is just ridiculous. Then with Luna, there were some adjustments here. Basically, these are also buffs, right? So when you adjusted Firearm, additional damage, and max damage of Explosive Inspiration effect from Ultimate Luna's Battlefield Artist module, the damage multiplier on the max shield times 0.4 is now 0.6, and the max damage multiplier, instead of being 150%, is now 210%. So this is also an improvement, a buff. And then, as I've mentioned, all of her skills are now classified as rhythm skills, right? So that's important because it needs to be able to interact with that trigger module. So makes sense. Then, as mentioned, the external component set, of which I spoke earlier, Manus is the set. The 2-piece bonus is more damage with a melee weapon, and then the 4-piece bonus is essentially you building up stacks of this Knight's willpower, and that pretty much then once you hit 10 stacks, you get like a big old damage bump, and you're ready to go. As mentioned, alongside the 3 new trigger modules, we also get 9 new mutant cells. These mutant cells are pretty much, there's one of each of the attributes. This impairment one, this says that when inflicting a debuff on a target with a skill, it inflicts a non-attribute impairment on the target, meaning like from how I can understand the reading of this, and this is always very difficult, is that the outgoing damage reduction, meaning like while you are debuffing the enemy, you're also debuffing their outgoing damage. And so there's a per attribute a module here, meaning that if the enemy, and again, I hope I'm understanding this right, and if I'm not, please correct me in the comments, but if the enemy that you're hitting with this is, for instance, dealing non-attribute damage, then this will limit their non-attribute damage potential pretty much. All right. Then there's also the conversion module. So we have singular, dimension, tech, and fusion conversion, these 4 modules here. This says that singular skill power boost ratio increases proportionately to the amount of HP consumed. So what these modules do is the more damage you've taken, the less your HP is, the more damage you deal of these damage types. So singular, dimension, tech, and fusion. This is pretty cool, except for the fact that it has a max increase value of 17.1%, which is, I mean, 17% more damage, I guess, is okay. And also just mentioned is the fact that if you purposefully set your max HP to 1 and you build like a shield build or something like that, then this is not going to interact with this at all, because this effect is not applied when your max HP is 1. You have to actually lose some HP, and you can't lose some HP of 1 because then you'll be dead. No, I think that's about it. The last 2 things to mention is the Executioner is now also a field Colossus in action plane, so you'll encounter him in the field. And then quickly scrolling down, I mean, there's of course some event shit and everything like that. I just figured I'd call this out as well. So I see people talking about this all the time. They want more module capacity than 2,000. This has also been increased to 2.5 now, so an extra 500 module capacity. This makes fucking sense because we just got a shit ton of new modules for swords. So we need the additional space, especially if you if you're running near the top. I know a lot of people like are sitting on 2,000 for like weeks already, and they just don't even bother picking up this shit anymore. But yeah, you're gonna have to make some space now because you need those sword modules there, done and dusted. But that's it for the video, guys. I think I've covered most of it. If there's anything inside the patch notes or something like that, or that you notice once you are in the game and we're done with maintenance that I've missed, feel free to just throw that into the comments. As always, I appreciate any feedback from you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all the support. Keep watching, tons more videos coming. And as always, I mean, obviously enjoy the fucking game when it comes out of maintenance, and fucking cheers.